Welcome back to the Education Table, where we unpack your biggest questions about inclusive and innovative teaching in 10 minutes or less. I am Katie Novak, and today I'm tackling the question, what do I do if I provide options and students just pick the easiest one? I totally get it. We want students to stretch themselves, to engage deeply, and work at really high levels to challenge themselves. And when we offer choices, we are very hopeful that students will make really responsible decisions that help them grow. But when options are designed intentionally and aligned to grade level goals, there really shouldn't be any truly easy options. And at the same time, we don't want our students avoiding challenge or productive struggle when we do have maybe more efficient or more scaffolded options. So what on earth do we do? Let's break this down with a story, some research, and then a set of concrete strategies that you can use tomorrow. When I first learned about UDL, I was teaching 7th grade English. As a first step, I wanted to be more flexible with an upcoming reading comprehension project because my tried and true strategy was having students write responses to literally almost every prompt, even when writing wasn't the actual standard that I was assessing. So inspired by UDL and the idea of firm goals and flexible means, I redesigned a summative assessment. Students could show their understanding of that grade level text by writing a response, creating a presentation, or they could record a podcast. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to love this. They're going to pick what excites them. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to get such high quality work. And guess what everyone picked? The presentation, literally every single student. Not a podcast, not one essay, presentations only. But it hit me that I never actually taught them how to make a podcast. They did not know how to storyboard, to record, to edit, how they'd be assessed. And they had seen presentations. And so they figured, okay, maybe I'll do that. I don't have to write. But what I realized is I didn't actually teach them how to create a high quality presentation. And that was a design mistake because if students are just always choosing what feels quote unquote easiest or the most familiar, that is a design problem because UDL isn't just about providing flexibility. It's about preparing students to navigate that flexibility so they can make really informed, strategic, responsible decisions about how they show their learning as they challenge themselves. And the research, as always, actually backs this up in some really interesting ways. So teachers often fear that offering options means that students will just take shortcuts. They're just going to look for the easy way out. But when a rubric is aligned to grade level standards, there really are no easy shortcuts. There are only more scaffolded options and less scaffolded options, and both can be really rigorous when the goal is clear. And so the goal of UDL is really about learner agency, and learners who have agency make choices by balancing what feels efficient, what feels manageable, what is predictable. So it's not that students are avoiding challenge, but they often avoid uncertainty. And here's where this gets really interesting. There's a concept in instructional design called the expertise reversal effect. And it was highlighted in a 2025 meta-analysis by Tetlaf and colleagues. And they found that less experienced learners perform much better when they have examples and scaffolds. But more experienced learners actually perform worse if they use those same scaffolds because the extra guidance creates some redundancy and slows down thinking. So in other words, a scaffold that's one size fits all that helps one student learn more deeply can make another student less effective because, of course, as all of us know, different learners require different levels of support based on context. Now, stay with me here because this is important. How on earth does this connect to students choosing the easiest option? Both of these situations come from the same root cause. Students often choose what feels predictable, not what leads to the deepest levels of learning. So a student might avoid a podcast because they don't know how to make one. Another student might choose the most scaffolded options, even if they don't need those supports because it feels like they can do it really quickly and it's safe. And it's not necessarily laziness. It's almost like a lack of metacognition in the process. And that's why UDL is essential. It's not give choices and hope that students pick the best thing. It's teach the options. Be really clear about the goal and teach the options. model the workflows, and then provide scaffolds that are available, but they're not required. And before we ask students to make decisions, we really need to unpack the goal, share the success criteria, and then help students reflect on which options will challenge them in the right ways. So instead of worrying that choice is going to lead to shortcuts, we need to ensure first that all choices meet the same grade level expectations, that students are taught and provided with opportunities to reflect on what they really need to do their best work and why. And to do this, we can ask students to reflect on a prompt like, the best option for me to find the right balance of support and challenge is. So when students understand both the firm goal and their own readiness, which requires some significant self-awareness, they are more likely to make more responsible and therefore rigorous decisions. So how do we design instruction to help them move in this direction? Let's dive into some strategies. The first strategy, which I talk about all the time, is the no thank you bite. Just as I ask my own kids to try a bite of a new food or a new dish before they say, no, I don't like that, I learned that I had to have students experience different options before I would add them to a choice board. So I began requiring them to do these no thank you bites. So if podcasting is going to be an option, I might really think about what we're studying in alignment with standards and provide them with a couple of different podcasts where they can listen to or read the transcripts. I want to talk about what makes podcasts effective. Of course, would need to make sure that students had opportunities, no threat ways to practice recording their voices in short segments. So it's really about low stakes exploration, not in any way a summative assessment. It can be really formative. And then when the podcast becomes an option, students already have the experience. They know that there are maybe scaffolds available if they need them, but at that point, many of them may not need that level of scaffolding, and they'll have models. So some students might want step-by-step directions because maybe they forget how to make one based on working memory, but many will be ready to run with it. And yes, I understand this takes time, but you can absolutely divide and conquer this. So maybe your digital media specialist teaches podcasting school-wide, for example, or maybe teams across grade levels split the work. So I was a seventh grade teacher and there were 4 core teachers: science, social studies, math, ELA. Maybe one person says, you know what? By the end of the next 6 weeks, I'll make sure that our students know how to make a really solid screen recording video. And another is really focused on not only creating slides, but presentation skills. And another is doing this podcast. And the goal is really sharing responsibility for building students' toolkits. So after they have all these different experiences, they're going to be much better situated to make responsible decisions for their own learning. The next tip is something I did an entire podcast about, which was about rubrics, which is that every single option needs to align to a clear rubric. If the goal, for example, is understanding characterization, as in how complex characters interact over the course of a text, then the rubric should measure whether students know how to analyze characters and how they interact and how it really drives the plot forward. And if the rubric is really clear about those reading comprehension skills, those high-level thinking skills, then students may be able to work towards mastery on that rubric by using an essay or a podcast or a video or a presentation. It is the same exact standard. It is the same exact expectations and success criteria, but there are different flexible methods to get there. This really ensures that no pathway is easier. It's just different. And yes, of course, AI can help you generate those rubrics, but always please apply your brilliance, your professional judgment to ensure that the criteria really reflect the standard without introducing any unnecessary construct irrelevant barriers. Now, the last thing we always need to do is ask students what they're choosing and why they're choosing it, because this is how we can make metacognition or agency more transparent. After students understand the goal, after they look at the success criteria, we might say, which of these things are you going to choose and why? And then as they begin to engage in learning, we can circulate, we can check in and say, okay, so talk to me. What led you to pick this option? Or how does this help you learn? Or how is this challenging you today? These questions really help students reflect on their decision making And it also helps you to understand where you need to intervene or redirect or provide feedback. If an option truly does not allow students to work toward the same firm goal, take it off the table. So this is not about students just choosing whatever they feel like. It's about them really understanding what is it that they really have to know and do. And of course, you as an educator are ultimately responsible for learning outcomes. And so as you check in and build relationships, you can help to redirect students and say, you know what, I'm not seeing that you're really doing your best work. Let's try something else. So here's the big takeaway of this episode, everyone. When we worry about students picking the easiest option, what we're really saying is, I am not sure that they're ready to self-direct yet, or I'm not sure that every option here is really aligned to grade level standards. And both of those are absolutely okay and very, very alterable. So thank you for joining me at the education table. If you have ever tried this no thank you bite or have some strategies that will work well, please let me know all about it. I can't wait to hear what you're trying. Until the next episode, onward.